The second annual Bloodborne Halloween Sinister run is upon us. I completed New Game as Kirk the Hammer at Blood level 12, doing a Kirk Hammer only run. I've since gone into New Game Plus. It's basically finished, and I collected a shit ton of weapons and blood gems, and as poor Jason and his phantoms are about to find out, Kirk the Hammer does not play around. The idea for this character is he was a powder kegger who got lost in the idea of connecting Canehurst's lineage with the powder kegs via the Reader Palish and the Rifle Spear. He's basically attempting to study the Vile Bloods, and in doing so, he's come to serve the Vile Blood Queen herself. So I use a lot of big boy strength weapons. I've got 30 blood tinge for my cannons, as well as the bloodletter. It's not a very optimized build, but I mean, you guys know how I am. Optimization comes secondary to lore. Although it is, 50 strength, you can't argue with that. If it hits, it hurts. Jason. Oh, poor sweet Jason. Being carried through New Game Plus by his friends. Poor sweet baby Jason. He lost his testicles in a tragic SpaghettiOs accident. You see, poor sweet Jason, he took a can of SpaghettiOs and he ate it raw. Right after he dropped out of college, just opened the can and just started eating it with a spoon, cold. And it was at this point Jason realized how sad his life was. That feel when no GF, no future, no job. So poor Jason, in a state of panicked delirium, he took the SpaghettiOs can and he waited until he had a bowel movement. And then he defecated inside that SpaghettiOs can, and he buried it. Yes, he buried it. 6 feet in the ground. And he just starved himself. And when he was finally hungry enough to eat his own excrement from the SpaghettiOs can, he dug it up. And that was his meal. And then he took the rusted, poopy SpaghettiOs can and he put it directly over his genitals, and he just twist and twist and twist until that rusty, excrement-filled can of SpaghettiOs removed his own genitals. Poor, sweet baby Jason. So, how does the Bloodborne Sinister run work, you ask? Why are you talking about SpaghettiOs? Why are you telling us these terrible things, Saint? I will tell you. The Bloodborne Sinister run, the second annual Halloween Bloodborne Sinister run, works like this. I'm going to start New Game Plus 2. From the moment we hit the ground, I'm going to ring my Sinister bell, and this is going to bring a Bell Maiden into my world. Then I'm going to ring the Beckoning Bell. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a Bell Maiden so that I can constantly be invaded, as well as allow players to come in and co-op with me. However, since Kirk the Hammer is a Vile Blood, if you are wearing the Executioner's Radiance rune in your Covenant rune slot, then you will actually get summoned as a cooperator who's trying to kill me. It's called an adversary. It's basically like Covenant battles. So, if you choose, you can come in as a helpful cooperator, or you can come in as an adversary using the Beckoning Bell. So potentially, we could have 2 adversaries, an invader, and myself, as we play through the game. There's no limit to what people can do. If they want to be helpful, they can. If they want to be invaders, they can. If they want to be adversaries, they can also do that. If you're wearing the Hunter of Hunter runes, you will also get summoned in as an adversary. If you wear the Vile Blood rune, you will be summoned in as a cooperator. If you wear the League's Oath rune, you will also be summoned in as a cooperator. That's the way covenants work in Bloodborne. Now, during this time, last year, we had some, they're sort of like anti-stream snipers. They run along and they play the game themselves as it's happening. Those people are also getting invaded. Those people are also doing co-op. So the whole game comes alive when we do this. It's awesome. The event is going to start on October 30th at around 6 p.m. U.S. Central Time. I'm going to play October 30th, October 31st, and November 1st. If we happen to beat the game before November 1st, we'll just make up some new stuff to do. So, if you've done Bloodborne PvP before, and you really like invasions, I encourage you to come out. This will be a lot of fun. There's not going to be any like honor dueling or any of that. This is just straight invasions craziness. Some of you might remember when I very first started my YouTube channel, I did invasions at soul level 125 in Dark Souls 3. I've always enjoyed the fact that meta level invaders could invade at any location when the game was active. But, you know, as the games get older and the player base shrinks, they become less active. It's harder to find those invasions, you know, in every level. You can still find them, but it takes a lot more time. So, if you're into invasions and, the anything goes mentality, this will be a lot of fun. If you've never done Bloodborne PvP before, this is a really fun way to sort of get introduced to it. So I'm going to be blood level 130. So if you want to make your character blood level 130, you're more than welcome to. But the reason I chose 130 is because it allows me to summon and be invaded by all of the popular Bloodborne meta levels, which are blood level 98, blood level 120, and blood level 150. So anything in between there goes. If you would like, you can go into your PlayStation settings and you can upload your save file of Bloodborne to the cloud, or you can save it on a USB stick. Then you can level your character up accordingly from blood level 98 or 100 or 120. You can go up to 130. And then after the event, you can revert the save file back to your old one if you would like to do that. As for the new players, if you've never done Bloodborne PvP, you're going to see a lot of people with crazy ass damage, okay? Blood level 100 meta and above, 40 vitality, which is what governs your hit points, is like bare minimum. So don't treat it like Dark Souls 3 where you give yourself 40 vitality and you think you're good. If you give yourself 40 vitality, you need to be wearing the runes that give you plus 15% HP and plus 10% HP. You need to be wearing both of those. Stack them up. I would suggest 50 HP for these, because everybody's going to be doing a lot of damage. Endurance on a meta level build is not super necessary. A lot of the really, really good players will leave their endurance at base. I'm not comfortable enough doing that, especially not on a strength build with big heavy weapons. And in invasions, stamina is slightly more important in my opinion, because you want to be able to hit and get out, not just hit. You need to be able to hit and dash and then run away if necessary. So stamina is important. But we're talking like important at like 15, I think is the recommended maximum for endurance by most players who know what they're talking about. I've gone up to 16 because fuck the police. Not really. But I think my endurance is at 16. But you don't need a lot of endurance in this game. Your damage stat soft caps at around 50. Their strength and their skill. Skill is essentially Bloodborne's version of dexterity. So, 50 is your soft cap there. There's also Arcane, which is basically magic damage, and Blood Tinge, which is blood magic damage. Arcane has a sort of reversed soft cap, sort of like dexterity in Dark Souls 3. Arcane at 99 is fucking ridiculous for Hunter's tools, but I wouldn't do that if this is your first Bloodborne PvP build. We're going to take a look at an invasion now, where I was watching one of my favorite streamers, a friend of mine, Ghost Hardware 25. He was wearing the Vile Blood rune. I was wearing the Executioner rune, as you can see. So I ring my friendly bell, and I show up as an adversary. I show up as his opponent instead of his friend. So, this is how that mechanic works, in case you've never seen it before. Again, for this Halloween event, I'm going to be a Vile Blood. So if you're an Executioner, and you summon in as a friendly, you'll actually be an adversary. When this happens, the adversary can hit invaders and the host, but two adversaries cannot hit each other. Two adversaries will be friends. They don't have friendly fire. So that's something to keep in mind. Going back to the idea of builds, there's a very good YouTuber named DangitJM. I recommend you check out his videos on Chalice dungeons. He can give you a rundown on how to skip a lot of the unnecessary Chalice dungeons. Even the story Chalice dungeons can be skipped to a point now, and you can just get right into farming, the best gems as quickly as possible. There's also new Duel Chalices, where the layout is of one type, meaning Pthumerian, Is, or Lauren, but the gems that drop are of a different type, which is very handy for Arcane builds, Blood Tinge builds, stuff like that. Again, DANGITJM. If you don't know who DangitJM is, I really recommend you check out his stuff. He's been doing several videos on these false depth dungeons that Zully the Witch created and popularized. So check that out if you need any help on how to farm the best gems. Last year, I made the mistake of saying, I didn't expect this event to be as big as it was last year, and I thought it was just going to be like basically my regular Twitch crowd, but a shit ton of people showed up who all had a shit ton of really good gems. So I'm not going to make that mistake this year and say, yeah, you probably won't need the best gems. I would go ahead and bring them. If you don't care about the gems and you're just looking to have a good time, just have some fights, and you don't really care if you win or lose, then, by all means, do your thing. I just don't want anybody to be taken aback when they're getting hit by Quick Step, Blade of Mercy, all thrust gem shitters, or, flat Arcane, Quick Step shitters, because there will be some of that. But you just gotta sort of take it in stride. The game's not perfect, obviously. The netcode is absolute trash. The matchmaking is freaking insanely difficult to actually, match up with someone. But when we get a bunch of players all in one location, it really does get more active. And it is, despite all the flaws I just mentioned, this game is still probably my favorite for everything. PvE, PvP, everything. I love it. And Halloween has always been my favorite holiday, so that's where, we're gonna do this. I love combining these two things. They just go together so well. So, if you're interested, it'll be over at twitch.tv/SaintRiot. There'll be a link in the description of this video. If you need some help with the Chalice gem farming, again, YouTube, look up DangitJM. If you need any advice on builds, I'm sure you can look it up online. And if you want to see PvP in action, I cannot recommend enough Damnation _ VII, Damnation7 on Twitch. Check that dude out. He's super helpful about helping people with builds. He really knows his shit when it comes to Bloodborne PvP, and he's just a sweetheart. He's an absolute sweetheart, and he's super helpful to people who are new to this game. Damnation _ VII on Twitch. I'll see you on Halloween, folks. Later, y'all.